Okay, so my name is Georgia Joseph. For those of you that don't know, I am the Director of Digital Strategy at 5Q. And today is my wedding anniversary. I've been married 32 years. Yeah, thank you. And actually, I think some of my family are going to show up here, although why they want to hear all the details about SEO, I'm not sure, but I think they're going to show up. So, I am an in-the-trenches SEO and social strategy practitioner. So I do this on a daily basis. And today is going to be like a class. I'm going to present a ton of information to you. This is information that I usually cover with clients when I train them in about 4 hours, but it's abbreviated. So this is not going to be a pretty slide deck with lots of fun pictures. We'll have a few fun pictures at the beginning. Mostly it's going to be information, and then I'm going to make a PDF of it and I'm going to give it to you so that you can take it with you. Thank you. We also have some templates that we've created at 5Q, and if I have a little time at the end, I'll share those with you. I'm hopeful that we'll have a few minutes at the end to actually take a website that one of you guys is interested in and to walk through and to evaluate it from an SEO and a social media perspective. So we're hoping to get through today. Are you ready? All right, let's do this. Okay, one dictionary has defined a marriage of convenience as a marriage concluded to achieve a practical purpose. You can argue all day about whether that's a good idea or not, and some people do. In a marriage of convenience, there are benefits other than love, and that's how it is with search and with social media. So it's no secret that Facebook and Google each want to be the primary gateway to the internet. The problem is they need each other to do it. So SEO and social media are like yin and yang. Social media strengths are likes, awareness, visibility. SEO strengths are data collection, measurement, and testing. Social media is about conversations, community, and connecting. You listen first, speak second. It's about identity, relationships, and content. For SEO, happiness is measured with complex algorithms. It's about architecture, linking, and content also. But both social media and search share a common love of great content. So this is how they're going to find true love. There is, I believe, although this is disputed, and we'll talk about it in a few minutes, a direct link between content that is shared socially and better search rankings. So if the search engine's left brain finds that the social media's right brain values your content, it will send more traffic your way. So what that means is that when social media wants to talk about where to go for dinner, that's not the time for search to deliver content that talks about growth hormones in beef. Okay? Or when search has built the best outdoor barbecue in the neighborhood, social should not be talking about the water in the basement. The most successful marriages happen when the two partners are working together seamlessly. Search and social need each other to do their best. Okay, so why should you care? I mean, why is this important? This is a lot to learn today, and it's confusing. Why do it? Why not just throw your hands up in the air and let fate have its way? I think it's because your kingdom message changes lives, and that's why all of you are here at this particular conference. It's about having impact. We all have eternity in front of us, and we all have a story. If you change the story, you change eternity. To have impact, you have to be understood. To be understood, you have to be heard. To be heard, you have to be found. Being found in the digital space means learning how to do what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so there is a controversy here, the search social controversy. And that is, do social signals actually impact search? And if so, how much? Google says no, sort of. Yeah. Maybe. All right. The search companies that look into this, and they do have, millions of points of data, say, what we're seeing is that social signals definitely affect search engine ranking. So it's no secret that there is no love lost between Facebook and Google. On the record, Google says, I'll read this to you, social signals are unreliable as currently available, quote unquote. So what that means is that they don't have access to Facebook's data. Facebook says that in 10 years, they will have a research and a question and answer service that will be better than any search engine, including Google. Okay? So this is Matt Cutts, and this is what he says. I'm just going to let you read it. The important things there I put in green. He says that Facebook and Twitter pages are treated like any other pages. Okay, so there's a difference between pages, though, and likes and shares and social signals. The other thing he says is to the best of my knowledge. Okay, that's the wimpiest phrase on earth. So just be a little bit careful when anybody says to the best of my knowledge. Whatever follows that may or may not be true. We don't know. Okay, so their Searchmetrics, Moz, and Netmark have done correlation studies, rank correlation studies for SEO ranking factors. Every single one of those reports, they're pretty extensive. They make the huge point that correlation does not equal causation. Okay, so just because it's heavily correlated doesn't necessarily prove that it's caused, but when you start to see the graphs, you can't deny that the correlation between the social media signals and the ranking is there. And they have very large data pools. Okay, so this is the Searchmetrics study. And everything there in orange is, that's the correlation factor there between the social signals and how high the pages have ranked in the search engines. And then when you get down into the blue and the green, that's more of the technical, that's the on-page optimization. Those are some of the things what we're going to be talking about today, is how to do the on-page optimization.
Actually, very quickly to define what a social signal is.
Likes, shares, retweets, comments, that type of thing. So anything where someone is taking something from a social network and sharing it, making it, publicizing it to their network. Pins with Pinterest.
So is that third one there, the number of backlinks, is that basically the page rank algorithm?
Yep.
So that's actually third?
They're saying that's third. That doesn't surprise me at all. I think that Google would actually like for backlinks to go away because they're so easy to spam. But they're not there yet. So here's another infographic. I thought that this was pretty cool. Again, same study. There's the social right there, broken out a little bit more, the backlinks. One thing I did want to point out with this is that brands are important in the search rankings. It's almost like there are times when Google saves the #1 spot for the most recognized brand for a search term. And then Wikipedia often gets the #2 spot. It makes it hard when you're doing SEO. It kind of leaves you third place, but it is definitely possible to take that down. Okay, this is also from the Searchmetrics study. I just wanted to pull out one of their graphs, and this shows you the Facebook correlation. So these are all of the signals with Facebook, everything that you could possibly do. You can comment, you can share, you can do whatever. So you can see that the #1 position at the bottom correlates very strongly with the ranking, or with the number of shares on the side, and then it goes down. And they have a chart like this for all of the other social platforms as well. They've got it for Twitter, they've got it for Pinterest, they've got it for Google+. So Moz did another study. In their study, they also survey SEO practitioners and say, what do you think is going on? But this is actually just the data, and what they say in their report, social signals, especially Google+, +1s, and Facebook shares are highly correlated. So you can see that. And then here's a really interesting thing that they've done. They call it the periodic table of SEO success factors. And I've just put it up here for you to take a look. I'm not going to spend a lot of time digging down into it, but did want to point out that they have some things like content. The quality is very high. Anything that's a +3 is going to have a really large impact. Anything that's down here in red, if you do it wrong, is going to have a negative impact. And I had the experience of trying to get rid of a manual penalty on a client's website this year, and it's not fun. It's like having your identity stolen. It's not your fault, but it takes hours and hours and hours to fix it. So we look really closely now at those bottom red things when we're looking at client sites. And then Netmark. They use a slightly different way of figuring, and so their data is different, a little bit different, but again, you're seeing that they've got the social media factors being really high, and they say that. Consistent positive correlation between social media metrics and Google search engine rankings. So that's the controversy. I mean, there you have it. Yeah?
Are Google and Bing pretty well behaving the same way these days?
I don't spend an awful lot of time on Bing. Most of our clients, when we look at their analytics, they're getting 96, 97, 98% of their search from Google. Yeah. So when that starts to change, then definitely we would go in and we would take a look at that. So, okay. So let me spend a couple slides here on just kind of philosophy and kind of give you a framework for how to think about this, because it is really complicated. And if you start reading things online, it seems like everybody is saying something slightly different, and they probably are. So what I've tried to do is to make it a little bit simple, and so that we can focus on the important things. So philosophically, the good news is that paying attention to search and social allows you to reach the whole person, heart, mind, and soul. And actually, you can think about that from an SEO and a search perspective, and here's how. So I found an easy way to think of this is just to do a 3x3 grid, looking at the people, the content, and the delivery. So reaching someone's mind is actually perfect for search engine spider food. What the search engines like are a lot of content. They like text, they like research, they like originality. And all of that speaks to answering people's questions, especially when you're talking about the faith. Answering their honest questions with humility and with your own perspective is going to be what helps you to rank in the search engines. The heart part of it is the stories. Those are the things that are share-worthy. When you write stories and you use stories in any of your communications to tell what is going on with your ministry, that's what people like to share. It touches their emotions. And that's your earned content, and that's your social. So you engage the mind by using long-form content. It answers people's questions. It speaks to their rational thinking process. It's good for SEO because it's keyword-rich. By telling stories of real people, you make an emotional connection with them. So they see your story that it isn't just about you, it's about what you do for other people. Those types of stories are tailor-made for sharing on social networks. And then you touch the soul by encouraging reflection and insight, and that leads to transformation through the power of the Holy Spirit. Just a little bit here about the content channels. We're going to be focusing on owned and earned content today. Earned is the endorsement from a platform. That's your social media. Owned is what you control yourself on your own platform, what you can create. So your website, microsites, blogs, all of that. Perfect spider food. Then likes, shares, comments, reviews is the social side of it. So there's the old joke, how do porcupines mate? Okay, very carefully. So next we're going to be talking about how to do SEO and how to do social media. It's going to feel like you're drinking through a fire hose. But like I said before, don't worry, we're going to make the slides available at the end of the presentation. And we're now going to move away from the pictures and into words, text. Okay. Just a little bit of background. There are a number of different companies out there that are really experts in SEO, and they have different approaches. At 5Q, we use Bruce Clay, and that's where I trained. And they have an awful lot of information out there. They're fantastic in the fact that they say, this is how we do things. They're not secretive about anything. They're completely white hat, no black hat. But just so you know that if the controversies come up, and we're going to talk about a couple of them, where we come down is we will go with Bruce Clay recommendations. Now, the reason that I have this is a project we just finished for Answers in Genesis. And over a period of the 4 months after and 4 months before we worked on this project for them, we have seen an increase in their organic search traffic of almost 67%, which is 2.25 million sessions or page views. So I'm just showing you that to let you know that this works. You're not wasting your next hour or hour and a half here. The things that you learn, you're going to be able to take, and you're going to be able to do good stuff with it.
Can you describe exactly what that means? So they're up by 66%. Exactly what is up? I mean, what one?
The keyword phrases that bring traffic to their website from the search engine.
So that means that before, if you put in that phrase, they wouldn't have come up with high in the rankings, but now they put in that phrase, they come up higher.
Right. So what we did an extensive project with them that involved, I trained them on 3 separate occasions, one time actually traveling on site. Redid all of their architecture and taught them how to do all of the on-page optimization. So they started doing that, and this is what they were able to see. Even before their site launched, this is the results they were able to get just by employing that.
So that's unique visitors?
No, it's not. It's just individual sessions. Yeah.
What time period does this reflect?
Okay, so it's
Ballpark, 1 month, 2 months?
it's the first part of this year from about mid-January through a couple of weeks ago, and then the 4 months previous to that. Mm-hmm. All right, one thing I want to point out, because this is an argument that comes up all the time. And I'm just going to tell you how I do it, and you're probably, if you get into this, you're going to have other people come up to you and say, no, you don't have to do it that way. So I just want to explain a little bit why I do it this way. A lot of people will say, oh, you don't need to use keyword tags. Google has said you don't have to use keyword tags. Bruce Clay says, yeah, you do. And there's actually a very specific way that you need to write the keyword tags. And so that's what we do. And that is one of the things that Answers in Genesis did with all of the pages on their site. I mean, they did a whole lot of things we told them to do, but they were super, super careful about going in and making sure that they did the keyword tags right. So I'm going to show you how to do keyword tags. If you are using WordPress, WordPress has kind of made the assumption that you don't need keyword tags. And so there is a special plugin that you can get if you want to do keyword tags, and I'm going to recommend that you do it, that you spend some time on keyword tags. The most important thing about keyword tags is do not put a word in the keywords tag that is not also in the body copy of the page, or you're going to get dinged. Yeah.
Have you seen any numbers and let me preface this, like, I'm not against keyword tags, but they take up a lot of work. So I'm just curious, have you seen what's the lift you get from doing all the, like, solid HTML tags, solid structure, and then if you add keywords, what's the difference in terms of the rankings?
I haven't done that specifically. I haven't isolated it out. The keywords tag is not the biggest thing, not by a long shot. You're going to get a lot more bang for your buck from the URL, title tag, and all of those things. But if you're in a competitive space, it gets to the point where all of those tiny little things matter.
So if you're already ranking, maybe don't put your effort there first. But if you want to get that extra edge, is that a good way to think about it?
It depends on what your goals are, really. I would say anytime you have a goal of raising money by using SEO, you need to do absolutely everything. If really you just want to be there for the fun of it, it might not be worth it to you to spend that extra time to do that. But once you get the hang of it, it's actually really fast to write a keywords tag. It doesn't take very long at all. The other thing is I'm going to recommend this page to you. It's titled 100 SEO Tips and Internet Marketing Insights, Takeaways from 100 Days with Bruce Clay. If you just type that into the search engine, it brings up this 100-point list that is really a fantastic summary of how they recommend going about SEO. Okay, so the topics we're going to cover for the next half an hour, 45 minutes. How to do keyword research, what silos are, how to do meta tags, how to take a look at your competition, and what to do with the body copy on the page. All right, keyword brainstorming. Take some time to do that. Your goal is you want to start with just a huge list of keywords. You don't want to at all censor yourself when you're first doing your keyword brainstorming. So you need to be thinking about, okay, what is the main subject of my website? And I put that up there because it never fails. Whenever I get started working with a client for the first time on SEO, the hardest thing for them to do is to say what the main topic of their website is in 5 words or less. It takes days to do that. And I'm going to say, if you want to be successful in SEO and in search rankings, you have to be able to figure out what the main point of your website is in just a couple of words. Okay, so when was working for the Bible League a couple of years ago. So what is the main, what is the main point of your website, people? The Bible. Okay, so that means that's putting you up against Bible Gateway. Good luck with that. Can we narrow it down a little bit? Can we say a little bit more? What about the Bible? How can we make it more specific? So we had that conversation for an hour and a half. And we finally did come up with something that they could differentiate themselves from Bible Gateway. Because you can take on Bible Gateway if you want to, but it's going to be at least a year before you make any traction, maybe 2.
So just to confirm, these are keywords that you're going to end up purchasing. Is that what we're saying?
No, we're not, no, we're not going to purchase them. What you're going to end up is optimizing your site for them. Yeah. So AdWords is the paid part of Google, the paid search. This is the stuff that you can do without having to spend any money except for your own time. Okay? So as you're thinking about it, then you want to write down all of the words that visitors, donors, experts, and outsiders would use to search for your ministry. And just get out a whiteboard or get out a flip chart or even a spreadsheet if you're doing this digitally. Get with people who are in your ministry. Don't try to do all of this yourself. Schedule an hour, get pizza, and just get everything up there that you think you can possibly is going to relate to your site. Very large list to start. Okay, then the next thing you want to use is you want to jump into the Google Keyword Planner. And if you Google Keyword Planner, it'll pull it right up for you. And you can log in with your whatever your Google name is. And that is where you can find out what the traffic is and what the competition is for the keywords that you have chosen. So once you've generated your list of keywords, you want to go in and you want to find out which are the ones that are organizing the most traffic or sending the most traffic. So there are 3 types of keywords you want to be looking at. The first are really broad ones that cover a large subject area. Those are going to be the things that are probably going to be at the navigation, the top part, where you're going to have main sections of your website that are those keywords. Those are the keywords that are going to get 100,000 estimated clicks a month, or 200,000 or 300,000, okay? Then the next one are sort of the medium range keywords. Those are generally sub-subjects of the larger ones, and those are going to be 20,000, maybe 15,000 searches a month. And then you want your niche keywords, and those might be keywords that only get 500 searches a month, but they are very, very targeted to what you do. You're going to have an easy time ranking for them, and it's going to bring people to your website who are going to want to do what you want them to do when they get there. Okay, so these are the ones that are specific to your ministry and to what you're trying to do. The way that you have success if you're just starting with this is that first you start at the bottom. First you organize it according to topic. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But then you start with those niche keywords at the bottom. You rank for those. Once you're ranking for your small keywords, which is easy to do, you can kind of group them together and you can begin to target those medium, higher traffic keywords. Once you've got it to the point where you're ranking for those medium keywords, you can kind of group all of them together and you can start targeting the broad keywords. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. Oops, backwards. Sorry about that. And this is what the Google Keyword Planner looks like. And so I just put the term Bible in there. And you can see that what it does is it gives you other recommended keywords that are related to that. So once you've done your brainstorming, when you come into the Keyword Planner, it will help you to have words that you would not have even thought of. So anything that when you're going in here, anything you think, oh yeah, that one works too, you just click on it and add it to your list, add it to your plan over there. Now, this is also for AdWords, but you don't have to buy anything. You can use it for your own keyword research, completely free, and it gives you an estimate of the traffic and also the competition, so you know how hard your job is going to be. Does somebody have a question? Okay. All right, so at some point you're going to have to finalize the list. I think for Answers in Genesis, I'm tracking about 300 keywords for them. But for some sites or smaller sites, we might track only 15 or 20 keywords. So you will want to say, at some point you're going to have to say, okay, I can't track 1,000 keywords. Which are the ones that absolutely I want to rank for, I want to be found for? Get rid of the rest of them. So in order to do that, you need to think about what is the language that your customer or user uses. And you might even want to do a survey to find out what language they use. Because when they're typing something into the search engine, that is what you want to be optimized for. Because once you get all of your meta tags written, you will pull up for that specific search. But that involves knowing what your audience is thinking about.
So if the language of the site is English, is there any point in optimizing for another language?
Oh, that's a whole other session.
Okay.
I think we're going to I think we'll limit ourselves to English today.
Multilingual site is obviously much more expensive to try to create.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you do that.
Yeah. Okay, so think about the language they use, think about the communities they identify with, and gets into the social part of it, and then think about the questions they will ask. One of the things that we've seen over the last 2 years is a huge number of people entering questions into the search engines. Yeah. Exactly. And in fact, the Obama administration did an amazing job a couple of years ago when the Healthcare Reform Act was going through. They somehow figured out that there was just a ton of people typing the question in, what is the, whatever it was, what's it called? No, the Affordable Care Act. What is the Affordable Care Act? And they typed it in. So they quickly put up a page that was heavily optimized for that, and they ranked like #1 for it, and that's how they got their message out. They did a fantastic job with that. And so if you can do the same thing, if you can identify the questions that your audience is asking and optimize specifically for that question, you can drive traffic to your site. Okay, the next thing you need to do is look for actionable keywords, because you don't want to get people to your site just so for the fun of it. I mean, who has time for that, right? And so the first thing, what is it you want people to do when they get to your site? All right, do you want them to buy? Do you want them to donate? Do you want them to volunteer? Do you want them to, I don't know, write a story or something like that? So you will want to optimize for keywords that include the verbs of the actions that you want people to take. All right, download, buy. Anything that is specific to your product, brown leather Bible, or if you have a product ID number, you want to make sure that you optimize for that. And then the questions people are asking in the Obama example, which is the one I just told you.
Is this for the individual, like say you have a website that has all its individual pages.
Right.
Do you put these keywords on the index page, or do you put them on the headers in the individual pages?
Great question. Individual pages. We're talking about individual page optimization. But you're going to be thinking about your site as a whole. And so the niche keywords I was talking about, those are going to be, maybe individual pages, maybe 2 levels down in your structure. The medium-sized ones are going to be individual pages, maybe at your 2nd level. Then the broad keywords, those are going to be your sections. And so you might have a landing page that's optimized for a broad keyword that then you link off to these smaller pages with. Okay? That's a great question. Okay, and then let me go back here for a second. Look for natural themes and groupings to form silos. Okay, so siloing is a technique that actually Bruce Clay was the first company to do. They are the ones that talk about it the most. All successful websites that rank for search engines do it. Whether they do it intentionally or not, I don't know. And what that means is, and I was telling this to somebody yesterday, the search engine was conceived when its founders were PhD students at Stanford. So the entire mental model metaphor of how Google works is around a PhD thesis. And in a PhD thesis, you've got your main topic, and then you have got your subtopics that relate to that, and then you have got smaller topics that relate to that. If you can start to think of your website in that same way, you will be able to get the content organized so that the spider can understand it when it starts to crawl the site. So if it goes into a section about Bible study, it wants to see links that are closely related to Bible study, not links that are related to bicycling. Okay? If you get all of that mixed up together, the search engine is going to be confused and you're not going to rank well for those terms. So your content needs to be very, very well organized that way, by subject matter, by theme, and those are called silos. Okay, collection of pages on the same topic, linked together a very specific way. I'm going to show you that in a minute. What you have is a primary landing page, and then each landing page should have at least 5 supporting subpages. Okay? More is better, but at least 5. So the silos aid the search engines in understanding what your site is about and giving you credit for it. Ranking in the search engine is all about demonstrating your expertise in a specific area to the search engine. The spider is also very literal. It does not understand abstract thinking at all. So when I was working with Answers in Genesis, I said, okay, so what is your site about? They said, biblical authority. I'm like, well, not a lot of people search for biblical authority, but that's a very abstract concept. And so I had to tell them the spider's not going to understand that. We're going to have to talk about other things, kind of related to that. And so it's really, really important to understand. The spider's like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old. Okay, you give it very, very specific information, and it has to be very well organized. So here's just a basic example of what that might look like. So Bible landing page. Now those numbers are from the old Google keyword tool. I haven't updated it. Those are not really the search numbers anymore. But you can see the Bible is like the large, broad topic. And then there are 5 subtopics there that are the supporting pages that would then be optimized for those phrases. And then here is a chart that I found that someone created who does this also. It's a much more complex way of understanding how silos are organized. Okay, any questions about keywords and silos? Because we're going to talk about meta tag writing next. All right. Yes.
I've got one of my sites. There's lots of articles that I've just they've grown higgledy-piggledy So according to this, I should take them and link them back to sort of subject matter landing pages.
Yes, you need to organize them. It's like dumping a bag of marbles out or a big bag of, let's say, peanut M&Ms. Let's say you like peanut M&Ms. Just saying. I do.
Just as a random.
As a random thing. And you get somebody who really likes you gives you 2 pounds of peanut M&Ms. Okay, and you're super particular and you want to eat them one color at a time, so you dump them out. Okay, then you would sort them by color. So if that's the way your website is right now, if it's the bag of peanut M&Ms, you kind of want to dump all of those articles out and begin to sort them into piles.
It won't, because I won't have to change my directory structure. I just have to put in the main thing these other pages, this sub-heading pages.
Yeah, now if you already have a directory structure that's set up that's not subject, based on subject matter, you can do what are called virtual silos. And so that the grouping is not necessarily connected with your navigation. You do the linking that is just actually on the page itself. And so,
So if you have, say you have a blog with 100 posts, these 5 are all connected to each other, but they're all exactly the same structure level. If you're linking to them, each other within themselves, that counts as a silo?
yes, that's a virtual silo.
Okay.
Yeah, and the way you do that is you just put all of the links on for each of the pages on the page somewhere. So if you've got your main page, let's say you've got 6 links there that are your landing page and your 5 subpages. You just need to make sure that within that, each one of them kind of all links to the other.
Okay.
But then once you do that, don't link out then to a bunch of unrelated pages because you're going to mess up your silo.
Okay.
Oh, and let me go
Is it
back.
still a bad idea to link to the page you're on?
Why would you do that?
Because my IT department's dumb, but the software is not smart enough to not link to the page it's on. And if you say, link all the pages that have this tag, the page you're on shows up in that list, is that a bad thing or is it just neutral?
It won't hurt you.
Okay.
Okay, so let me just, I'm going to go back here for just a minute because you actually bring up a good point. The one thing, if you look here, you're going to see I didn't do is actually, let's pretend that there's 2 of these here. You've got this silo and you've got another one over here. You don't want to link from this guy over to a second level guy over here, all right? You can link from this guy up to the main landing page, but don't link across silos.
But then Bible training would also link to online Bible and study the Bible and what is the Bible?
Yeah, because they're all in the same silo.
They're all linked to each other.
So they're all linked to each other. And let's say you've got another one that over here that's the Quran, all right? And if you've got all your little 5 pages that talk about the Quran. Don't link from Bible training to Quran training, okay? That'll mess up your silo. And you can also see it here. Well, I'm not going to go into that.
Question.
Yes.
Does that, so if you have like a call to action, like on the sidebar of your website, from like the Bible section, let's just say it's a global advertisement to go make a donation or do Quran training or something like that. Is that, given your example, is that the same thing as linking between silos? Does Google see it that way, or how does that work?
Well, hopefully, I'd have to look at a specific instance, but hopefully if you've got a donation link or something from your sidebar, that's also like a major page in your site. So it would be equivalent to linking up to that top section. Yeah,
Okay, so as long as it's not going into an internal site landing.
Deeper.
right.
Okay.
And if it's good for usability, you can do that, but just use a no-follow link so that the search engine doesn't
Okay.
follow it
That makes sense.
from there. Great questions. All right, meta tags. Every page on your site must have a unique title, description, and keywords tag. When I find sites that should be ranking and are not, it's often because they will have a dozen or maybe even all of the pages on their site have exactly the same title tag. Title tag is one of the most important things for SEO to get right. And if all of your pages have the same title tag, you're not going to rank. Except for maybe you'll rank for the word home, if that's what you use. Okay? It's also important title, description, and keywords, they need to be in that order. All right, so let's say that you've decided you want to rank for Bible training. Your title tag needs to have the word Bible training in it as close to the beginning as possible.
So is there a meta title tag you're talking about? Not just the title, the page, like actual title tag. You're talking about meta title.
The meta title tag, right, yeah. What usually shows up as the title tag for the user is actually the H1 tag, which we're going to talk about. But I'm talking about the meta title tag. It doesn't show up in the copy unless you put it there. It shows up just at the top of the browser.
Right, that's what okay.
Yeah.
But that's not meta, it's just the title
Yes, it
tag.
is.
Right, in HTML, it's title/title.
Yes.
Meta something/meta. Which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about the one for SEO. Now, okay.
Never mind.
Because this is our Nathan, who's one of our programmers. He and I have this argument all the time.
I got it. Don't worry.
Okay, good. Don't use any word more than twice in your title tag. So Bible training, write your title tag so that the word Bible training comes at the beginning, if you can at all do it without sounding totally stupid. Because your title tag also shows up in the search engine results. So not only is it good for SEO, but it's good for click-throughs because Google bolds. So if someone types in Bible training, Google bolds every instance of Bible training on that page, whether it's in the description or the title tag. Psychologically, when you see that right at the beginning of the title tag and the description tag, you want to click on it. So it's got benefits in it. And then there's a limit on the characters.
Lots of people like to put the name of their company at the end of the title tag. Is that still
Okay,
good?
that depends on branding. If you've got a real solid brand, you can put your company name at the end of your title tag. If you are not ranking for your brand, then you put it at the beginning. Okay? Description tag is super important. This was one of the ones that they said a couple years ago doesn't matter, but it is super important for usability, and it shows up in the ranking correlations over and over and over again. Again, your keyword phrase as close to the beginning as possible. Write it in a complete sentence. Repeat any word up to 2 times. This is your sales pitch for your page. Okay, so when you write this, you want to write it in a way that causes people to want to click on your link because they will see that in the search engine results. Keywords tag. This is the one that we just talked about that, some people say no and we say yes. So here's the instructions for that, 24 to 48 words long. Repeat any word up to 4 times. This is the part that's just going to seem ridiculously picky, but we do it. Write it as a list. Put the longest phrases first. Capitalize the first word in each phrase. Separate with a comma. Don't repeat any phrases. You can repeat any word up to 4 times, but don't repeat any phrases. So if you've got a 4-word phrase, that one goes first, followed by your 2 3-word phrases, followed by your 2-word phrases, followed by your single words. Okay? If you're having a hard time with branding, put your name, the name of your organization in your keywords tag as well.
In an earlier slide, you said first word or first letter of every word gets capitalized. Now you're saying first word of the phrase gets capitalized.
First word of the phrase. If I said,
This is correct.
yeah, this is correct. Yeah. Okay, H1 tag needs to contain your keyword phrase. Be less than 6 words. Have it be similar to the title tag. Because the H1 tag people actually see, and so you can get away with writing a little bit of a awkward title tag for SEO, but you can't get by with writing an awkward H1 tag. So just make sure your H1 tag is friendly to your users. Okay, the alt attributes are really important because this is how you comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And you can be sued. I mean, I don't know if they're going to get anywhere with it, but you can actually be sued. So just because it's so important, it's why it's also a strong signal for search engine ranking. So this is, whenever you use an image, it's an opportunity for you to get your keyword phrase in there 2 times. First, make sure that you name the file of your image, the keyword phrase you want to rank for. That will help you be found in image search, which is becoming more and more popular on Google. So don't use, D635782221 for your image file name. Use that keyword phrase. Excuse me. Then the alt attribute is where you have really a lot of flexibility. You try to get, the keyword phrase in there, or if necessary, even 1 or 2 words of the keyword phrase. You can switch the words around a little bit. But just make sure that the point of this one is that if somebody is blind and they're using a reader to tell them, they won't see the picture, but the reader will read your alt tag for them. So keep that person's needs in mind when you're writing your alt tag.
Question.
Mhm.
As a developer, sometimes we add images as backgrounds in styling. Those don't have alt tags. What is kind of the effect that that might have on,
When you,
CSS backgrounds type things?
I don't think you need to worry about that.
Okay.
We're just talking about putting images on the page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Images have both an alt tag and a title tag available?
No, just the alt tag, and
What
then,
do you use, like in Explorer, if you put your mouse over an image, whatever you have in the title tag actually shows up as a tooltip. The alt tag doesn't show up unless you're looking at code.
oh, really?
Okay.
So like,
Yeah, like in an image, you've got source equals, and then alt equals, and then title equals.
Mhm.
And if you have anything in title on a desktop browser, you can, or laptop, if your mouse is on top of that image, you get a tooltip for it.
yeah, that's not going to help you with your SEO. The alt tag is what you need to be concerned
It's
about with
the
your
alt
SEO.
that
Yep.
matters. Okay.
hmm Yeah, if it doesn't help you with SEO, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it.
Well, I didn't know, I usually just use the same text in bulk. But
Yeah.
I didn't know if it made.
And that, no, that would be fine. I don't think that that would be a problem at all. Okay, so this is an old slide from previous training, and I just actually left it there because I want to illustrate a point. When I did the training session, the first training session with Answers in Genesis almost exactly a year ago, there were still people who were saying, oh, URL doesn't matter. You know, you don't have to worry about the URL. All of the ranking studies that I shared with you show that that is really, really important. Okay, so this is what I said to them a year ago. I said a lot of really smart people say this is unnecessary. I disagree. URL should contain your exact keyword phrase as close to the root as possible. So if your CMS allows you to edit the URL, take out all of the little in-between stuff between your root and make sure that your keyword phrase is as close to the root as possible if you can do that. Okay, we're going to talk about the competition. Any questions on meta tags? Okay. I thought I'd throw a little picture in here for you to break up the monotony of all the text. So enjoy it. You're not going to see another one for a while. All right, so now you got to look at your competition. So first thing you're going to do is pull up a browser. Use the incognito browser and Google Bible Training. And that's going to give you your top 10 for, those are the ones that are already ranking. So if they're already ranking, they're doing something right. So what you're going to do is you're going to actually go in now and look at the source code and figure out what they're doing wrong. So one of the things that we see with Google is that brands can rank and make a lot of mistakes. It's like they save a top spot for a brand like Nike. So if you go into like the major brand and you start looking at their source code, you're going to say, well, but wait a minute, you know, they haven't done blah, 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 blah. They get a pass because they're a brand. So if you're not a strong brand, if you're not ranking for your branded keywords, it's really important to pay some attention to that. Because once you can be seen as a brand, you get a little bit of a pass yourself, okay? So when you're going in, we're going to look at the competition. Just keep in mind that if you click into number one and it's Nike and everything isn't perfect, it's not because it's okay for you not to do everything perfect. It's okay for Nike not to do everything perfect. So you are going to take a look at the URL, title tag, keywords tag, description tags, H1, H2 tags, alt tag, and the photo file name. And anything that your competition is not doing, you can do. And that's going to give you an opportunity to win. The other thing you want to look at is their body copy. How much of it is there? Are you trying to compete against a 1,500 word article or a 400 word article? If you're competing against a 1,500 word article, then your article is going to have to be about that long too. Okay? So that's where you have to kind of decide. This is where, back when I said, you know, make a decision on your keywords, this is where your resourcing is going to come into this. You're going to have to decide, how much do I have that I can invest in this? Can I really, really invest in ranking for, 300 keywords? Answers in Genesis has a huge team on this, and so yeah, they can do that. You might not be able to. Okay, so what are they doing right? What can you copy? Copy shamelessly. If they're doing something well, do it too, okay? The other thing that is fantastic when you're looking at the competition is all of a sudden you will realize that there are context words and other keywords that you hadn't even considered. So you might go into a page on Bible training, and the number 2 or number 3 has got a whole bunch of language that they use surrounding how they describe Bible training that you haven't even thought of. Go in and pull out the most important words, the ones that are used the most often, and put them in your stuff as well. And then what are they doing less well that you can do better? Okay, the body copy. What does the spider look for? Pages that contain the exact phrase. Some of this seems a little bit confusing, I know. Like, are we saying things here that are contradictory? Sort of, yeah, sort of not. Pages that have all the words of the phrase in close proximity to each other. Okay, so Bible training right next to each other.
By phrase, you mean the phrase that the person searched for it, right?
Exactly. Pages that contain all the words but not close together. So Bible training together, and a sentence that might have Bible at the beginning and training at the end. So the words kind of Bible by themselves used throughout and training by themselves used throughout. Pages that contain other forms of the word, like plurals, Bibles, train, train instead of training, trained. External links from a page about similar keywords. So one of the things that you really want to do is you want other people linking to you. The best thing in the world that can happen to you is if someone from a page that is using similar keywords to yours decides that your page is cool and links to it. You're just going to get a huge bang for your buck if that happens to you. Very best thing is if they actually put that link in the middle of a paragraph talking about how to do Bible training. That link is going to bring you an awful lot of link juice and help you to be able to rank. One of the things we don't have time to talk about today is how to go about doing a linking strategy, but one of the things that once you've got your optimization done, you can actually start to look for other sites that serve the same type of audience you do. Make friends with them and show them the type of work that you're doing and just see if they might possibly want to link to you. Pretty please. And by the way, if you're going to link to me, could you use it this way? Could you do it exactly like this? You only get to ask that question if you're really good friends with them. Then pages that contain the words with special formatting, and that means bold, bullets, ordered lists, unordered lists, italics, all of that shows that the word is important on the page. I want to say one more thing about external links because I said earlier links are the easiest thing to spam. Last year in the fall, I was looking at a site for another client, and when I was kind of going through the analysis of it, checked the page rank, it was 0. And just a month or two before, it had been page rank 4. Yeah, and so we spent a couple months trying to figure out what's going on with the site. What happened to it? Why on earth? Why did it derank? Realized we couldn't just contact Google because they don't pay any attention to you. So finally, luckily for us, the site was assigned a manual penalty in December. When it's assigned a manual penalty, Google says, okay, now once you fix the penalty, here's a link you can contact us. Lucky you. So basically what we did was the forums on the site were very insecure. And it was like, I don't know, it was like Spammer's Day at the beach. Everybody from Gucci to, prescription medicine had, hacked into those forums and had put a bunch of links in there. So it took us a while to go through, and we had to tidy up the forums. We had to get rid of all the links. We had to up the security. We had to document every single spam page that had been had something on it, send all of that to Google. They took off the penalty, restored the page rank actually to 5, so the story ended well. The reason that I'm saying that is that one of the kind of things that Google has done is called Penguin, and it's designed to penalize spammers, because what spammers do is they go in and they link to sites in a very specific way. It's a very patterned way. It's not a natural linking way. And for the longest time, you could get by with that. So the one thing you don't want to happen is that you don't want to have a whole lot of links to your site that all have the same language. So actually, people who did SEO used to recommend, oh yeah, put this page on your site that says, oh, if you're going to link to me, use this language, use this code. Don't do that. Let people link to you how they're going to link to you. Except that occasionally, if it's going to be a really great link and you have a really good relationship, you might be able to possibly suggest to someone what they might use for the anchor text. But do that super, super carefully.
So that would probably go for like badges and things like that, I guess a couple of years ago, it's like, oh, share this on my site.
Right.
download,
Yeah.
copy this code and put it on there. So that's a no-no now.
That's a no-no now.
All right.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, how is the keyword distributed? This is just super basic. What you don't want any of your writing to sound unnatural. If it sounds unnatural, that's the Panda penalty, and the Panda penalty will catch that. So write naturally. What I used to do was to train people to actually go in and here, you put this keyword here and here and here and here and here and here. After Panda, we couldn't do that anymore. So now when I train people, I say, write your article first, know what keyword you're writing around, write the article first, then go back and just kind of see how often the keyword shows up, and if maybe you can bold it a couple of times, or you can add an extra one or take one out. I think Bruce Clay says 7% density for a keyword on a page is about what they aim for. But you can test that as you start doing this, and you can see how you rank. And if you drop, then you probably have too many keywords in there. You need to take out a few.
So you mentioned something called manual penalty and something called Panda penalty.
Yes.
What exactly are those two things?
Okay, the manual penalty is when Google goes in, actually they've discovered that something's wrong with your site specifically, and they say, we're penalizing you. You're not going to be found in the search engines. Or
So when you use the word manual, that means that it's not done by a script or something, it's done by a person.
a person found it. A person at Google actually discovered it, and they said, we're going to penalize you. Panda is an algorithm change that Google started implementing a couple of years ago, and basically designed to penalize sites that were over-optimized. It used to be super mathematical. You could just actually go in, and we would joke about it. It's like, oh, yeah, I do SEO. And just like you're having a conversation with the person, you're using the same word over and over again. Who does that, right? A properly written page, or a normally written page, naturally written page, the analogy I use is like a teenager's bedroom. I mean, how often do you go into a perfectly neat teenager's bedroom? I mean, when you see that, don't you think like something's wrong with that? So that's kind of what Panda is for words on the page. They're supposed to be a little bit messy because that's how people write. So if it's just too neat and tidy, it's probably not going to rank as high as if it's a little bit messier.
This is probably off topic a little bit, but I heard that eBay got hit with the last Panda.
They did. They
Why-
got zinged.
What were they doing that upset Google? How can we not make this?
Same mistake, I know. Oh my gosh, it was huge. Okay, so let me think here. This is, you know what? I read about it, but I don't remember exactly what it was, and I don't know if it was Panda or something else, because I know they're rolling out another thing too. But there was something that happened.
Yeah, I didn't correct that far either. Panda 4.0?
So yeah, they did that, and there's something that went on with that they just lost rank on just a ton of their pages. I can
Or
look
is
it up though.
Google just going to get into auctions? And
Don't you wonder? Okay, so this is the other thing. You don't have a legal right to be in the search engine index. And basically, if Google wants it that way at this point in time, you just need to do it that way. And it's interesting because being in the search engine now is really a matter of being profitable or going out of business for a lot of companies. And so they have to be super careful. And that's part of the reason that spam happens so many times, because there's so much money to be made in the search engines. Yeah.
How do you find out from Google that you've been manually blocked?
They, Google Webmaster Tools, they will send you a message.
Perfect.
Yeah. But they don't always do it right away. Like we got hit with that 4 months before they actually told us what was going on.
Nice.
So what I think is the 0 was probably the mechanical, the automatic, came from the system. Something's going on here, we don't know what it is yet. Once they figured out what it was, then they sent us the penalty. And then we were able to fix it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So just make sure you got all your sites set up correctly in Webmaster.
Right,
Tools.
right. Okay, so I'm going to give you a for instance here with Google. What they say they want is responsive design for mobile. They want their sites to be mobile friendly because that is their favorite now. That's really what everyone is doing. Responsive design is not always necessarily the best mobile option. Sometimes a specific mobile site is more user friendly. But right now, what Google is saying is that responsive design is the way to go. So, and we just do it. It's going to help you.
How are they measuring that? What are they looking at on the site that goes, this is mobile friendly?
I don't know. I haven't looked into that at all.
So that's the thing called responsive CSS, and they would detect that on the page, you go into the cascading style sheet, it
Mhm.
says, for a screen of 1240, you use this design. For a screen that's, mobile screen, say 300 pixels wide.
So you think it's this viewport that they're actually looking at?
They just go into the code and they know whether it was responsive.
Well, now that that makes sense, and now they're actually indexing, they're running JavaScript.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is cool.
Are you running all JavaScript or certain kinds?
I think they're loading, it used to be they just loaded up HTML and indexed it and parsed it. I think they're actually loading it up in some sort of VM and executing the JavaScript and looking at the DOM instead of just the HTML.
Okay, so here's a quick flowchart that I created for our team for kind of how we can go through these steps. Just kind of including it in here for you so that when I send you the slide deck, you can kind of have it. All right, Matt Cutts again, our friend. So whenever he talks about how do you rank and how do you do well, he says, write good content, okay? So what does that mean? And so he was, in one video, he said, okay, so this is what I mean when I say that. Do original research. And this is where I think ministries have a huge benefit over some other people, because often, and I'm actually going to use you because I've heard over and over again about the way that you think originally and uniquely around what you do. Okay, so if you write directly out of your mind, your way of approaching your subject is probably going to be different than anyone else's. Google values that. Your perspective, putting information into context. If you can get a scoop or do an interview, Matt says Google likes that. If you provide a unique service, if you do things better than anyone else does in the world of 1 billion web pages. How can you be addictive? Like the new game, 2048. I can't believe he included that because here I am. Yeah. And then long-term, huh?
How can a page be addictive?
I could go on and on and on about that. Long-term things like social authorship, knowing who wrote what and who should be more trusted in the search engines will figure more and more in search. Those are his exact words. The authorship part now of Google is super important. We're going to talk about this when we get to social media, but the way that you do that is through Google+. So make sure you have your Google+ account set up and make sure that you link to anything that you write on the web through that. Google has instructions in their webmaster tools for how to do it. It's real simple. You don't have to know code or anything.
So magazine archives, I've got 50 authors that have written articles over the last however many years. Set up a Google Plus account for each of those authors, make sure those authors have set those up, and then
Yeah, tell the authors to set it up.
right,
Yeah.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And then make sure that my article is linked. Do I link their name to their Google Plus page, or how do I?
Yeah, there's a back and forth linking that goes on there. It's if you just Google how to do Google authorship, it'll take you right to a page that says this is how you do this.
Good.
Okay. And yeah, and the way that you sell that to them is that this is going to help them in the search engines too.
Yeah, I've seen it happen.
Yeah, it was more than once in the last 6 months, Google has said authorship is important. They've said it more than once.
Picture next to the article.
Yeah, it's not even a hint anymore. It's an instruction. So, all right, links do matter. Still, I think Google wishes they didn't. The reason that I include this in here is just want you to see that there are some sites that are just monsters on the web. All right, so like Wikipedia's. Then there's the kind of authority or the influence or whatever kind of goes down all the way to the point where there's small niche bloggers. And so all that to say that if you can get links from a highly respected site, whether it's one of the whales or even one of the highly respected smaller sites, those types of links are going to really, really help your search engine ranking at this point in time. They're hard to get, but they're super helpful. If you can also get a .edu link or a .gov link, those carry more weight than a .com link does. So,
.orgs live in that.
pardon?
Where do .orgs live in that world?
They're the same as .coms. Yeah. Okay, so best in class SEO, I want to give you an example of one that does it really well. This BibleStudyTools.com. This site has actually been trying to rank for the word Bible for probably 3 years. And they're on page 1 now, and they're usually in the top 4 or 5 results with it. adjust just a little bit, but that just shows you how hard it is to rank for that word, that it's taken them that long to do it. This is a very usable site. It doesn't have a ton of text on the page, but if you take a look here, I hovered over the About Us, then that pops up, all of that content. All of that content is in the source code. They get credit, so they've got this clean page for users with nothing on it, but when the user hovers over, then there's all that content. Now, this would be spam if the user could not get to the content. If the content was in the source code and there was no way that the user could hover and see it, that's spam. You don't want to do that. But as long as there's a way that by hovering, the user can see the content, you can kind of hide it that way so that it doesn't mess up your user experience, but you can still use it to rank. Okay? Let's see here. There's one word on here I want to point out to you. Let's see if I can find it. You'll see why in a minute too. It's pretty funny. Here it is. See the word gateway? Okay, just remember that that word is there. Just remember. We'll talk about it in a minute, all right? Yeah, you know where this is going, don't you? Okay, so this is the source code from that site. Just the title tag and the meta description and the keywords. Okay, so see down here, see how they've got all of these nice little commas here, all right? You see how they've got the phrase the Holy Bible here, and then they've got the word gateway there, okay? This is also Bible Gateway, which is their competition.
So is Google aware of that, and would you get dinged for that?
They haven't been dinged yet. They're doing everything right, and they've got the word gateway in the source code on the page, in the main content on the page. So I know, and I've actually done that for some clients.
So
The same thing.
They do the same thing and put Bible study tools.
They can, but Bible Gateway doesn't have a whole lot to worry about yet. They're firmly ensconced as the #1 Bible thing. So, in fact, you know, it's like the giant that kind of looks amusingly at the little ant that's trying to climb up its leg. But I was like, that's so smart. What a great idea. So I just want you to know that you can do that as well.
Sort of great.
Yeah. All right, case study. I've been talking about answers in Genesis. We were successful with that by redoing the site structure, lots of keywords in the on-page optimization, just like I taught you. And I wanted to just show you a picture, though, of this a little bit about how we structured the keyword research and then turned it into silos. Okay, so if you look at their site, you're going to see that there is an answers page. In the left navigation on the answers page are all of the kind of major topics that we decided. It's creation, it's evolution, it's God, the Bible, animals. We chose those specifically because they have a ton of content on those topics and they want to rank for them. So under evolution then, these are that middle section that I was telling you about, not the broad. The broad keyword that gets lots of it is evolution. These are the mid-range things like human evolution, missing links, natural selection. Those are the ones that they want to rank for. Now, obviously there are hundreds of things in evolution that you could choose. We chose these because this is what they have content for. Lots and lots of content. Then if you click down into that, then there's a third level of articles that then address even finer niche keywords. So you can go and you can poke around that site if you want to. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about social media next. Before we move into the social media piece of this, questions on any of the SEO? Good. All right. And I just decided I'd throw this up here because this is, okay, so what happens in an internet minute? I just wanted you to notice social. Look at all of that social activity. Okay, so the social piece of it is for your content promotion. It doesn't do any good for you to create fabulous content that nobody knows about. And so social media, not only if you do it right will you get the signals that search is able to read, but it does promote your content. It helps people to understand. And the two of those things work together. All right, how to do social. Social media's best relationship to content, it's an amplification layer. And that is a quote, and I didn't put the name of the person who quoted it, but that's not my language. So the content exists independent of what you're doing in social, but you're using social to drive awareness of your fantastic content executions. All right, I want to talk a little bit about platforms because you do need to pick your platforms intentionally. You can't be everywhere. I mean, maybe you can. If you have a staff of 10 people, yeah, you can be everywhere. I'm assuming that most of you don't have that here. So I want to talk just a little bit about the demographics and the behavior surrounding each of the social platforms so you can be thinking about your audience and where they're most likely to be. You want to be everywhere that they are and nowhere that they're not, okay? So this was interesting. This comes from a report on social media and commerce and purchasing. But it had some interesting information in there that I thought I'd share with you. No surprise, I don't think, to any of you, Pinterest audience is 83% female. We've seen that over and over and over again in our research, our primary research that we've done for our clients. And then by the age group, you can see that the largest group of users is the early baby boomers, late Gen X people, okay? Facebook, a little bit more evenly matched, skews older. And then Twitter is more evenly matched, both between male and female also, but then also a little bit more age groups. Most of them, though, in that center section. So this is an interesting thing. I'm in the middle of now the third direct research study with a large audience group for a client. In the process of analyzing about 8,000 responses to a survey that we sent out. We ask questions surrounding social media usage and internet usage and device usage just so that we can come up with a technological profile for our clients so they understand how to reach. And 75% log in daily. I'm going to say in our research we have found the same thing, that people who are on Facebook more than any other platform, they're there almost every single day. So just keep in mind, now Facebook has got its own set of challenges, and I want to talk about those for just a minute here for you. But keep in mind that if you're on Facebook, I assume you are, your people are going to be logging in every day. Now, whether they're going to see your information is problematic, because last year Facebook decided that they wanted brands, organizations to pay for reach. So they stopped just publishing. When you publish something, it might get to 10%. And actually, I just read a study that said that there are some brands that are seeing their reach is now down to 6%. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. So, yeah, let's go on. Yeah.
So what's the other 40% what's the other 60% of the Twitter population doing? Is it quarterly, yearly?
Okay, yeah, log in daily, log in weekly, log in monthly. Less than monthly, never.
So
And
Twitter, is that posting or just looking at it? Because there's a whole lot of
using it, yeah, or it actually says log. The language they use is login. In the surveys that I've done, I don't use login, I use visit.
Wow.
And I'm going to say actually it's very similar. I was really surprised at how few people visit Twitter from our audiences. Yeah, I mean it's a very influential platform, but it doesn't have the volume that something like Facebook does. Okay. All right, so here's some stats, Facebook. But here's the interesting thing, and this is not my language. For these next two slides, this is from an article. It says, for brands, Facebook is now a content publisher, not a community. If you Google that exact title, you can read this article. I highly recommend it. It's a very thoughtful look at Facebook. And he's talking with someone who's found the same thing with his clients that we're finding with our clients. Basically, now your reach is down to almost nothing unless you want to pay for it. The thing here is that all of the social media platforms, if they're not public yet, if they don't have to make money yet, they will eventually have to make money. And it's super important for you as you're getting involved in social media platforms to realize that what is free today may not be free for you tomorrow, with the exception of Google+. And that's because Google's already making money, so they don't have the same incentive to slap the golden handcuffs on you after a couple of years. So, an example, one of our clients literally spent 5 years building up their Facebook communities. And almost overnight saw their traffic drop first by 40%, then by 60% from those Facebook communities, unless they pay for reach. They hadn't really done anything else besides Facebook. So now we're scrambling with this client trying to use SEO to get the traffic back that they lost when Facebook changed their algorithm, because they hadn't spent any time on SEO previously, this has been a really huge job. So I'm throwing that out there just as a caution to you as you're getting involved in social media. It's like anything, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Make sure that you diversify. Okay, so what do you do? I mean, how do you fix it? It says get better at Facebook by publishing things that are more worthy of attention. There is a thing in Facebook where if something starts to go viral, they will kind of pull back a little bit and they will allow it to do that. There is another thing that some of our clients have seen is that when they get to like this tipping point of visitors and people, then Facebook does begin to promote their content for free sometimes, all right? So you can see that if you have a Facebook account, you can go in and you can look at your analytics, and you'll know that has happened if you're kind of going along a line and then all of a sudden you see that it comes up and then it stays up at this higher level. Okay, what that means then is Facebook is actually now starting to promote your content for free.
And you're referring only to Facebook pages right now, is that right?
Pardon?
You're referring to Facebook pages?
Yeah, yeah, Facebook communities. So another thing that...
But I want to clarify that though. You're saying community. Is that the exact same thing as a Facebook page?
The community are the people who like your Facebook page.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you publish content, you publish it on your page to your community.
So my personal Facebook thing that I post to every day, that's not a page, is it?
It's a profile.
Yeah, that's your profile. It's like, but organizations have pages. Yeah,
There's no way of tracking anything on a personal page.
I know.
Analytics and all that comes
From
Only Facebook pages.
Facebook pages.
right. Yep. So let me tell you what one of our clients did, just because this might be important to you. Best practice donation page says when you send someone to a donation page, you don't put any barriers there. You send them directly to the donation page. Okay. Facebook does not like to send people off their site to donation pages or stores or anything like that. They like to send their people off site to content. So in spite of the wailing and gnashing of teeth of their donation advisors, one of our clients put a content page between their Facebook page and their donation page. The content page then sent them to the donation page. They saw their performance from that double, simply by doing that.
So Facebook is kind of indexing the page they're pointing to.
They're figuring it out, yeah. Yeah. So I just keep that in mind. If you are trying to send someone to something that Facebook might not approve of, send them to something that Facebook does approve of first, and then send them to the unapproved page.
It's just like that there's a form on the page, or
I don't know.
a card on the page.
Yeah, I
I've
didn't.
seen that makes them think it's
I didn't ask. I don't know. Okay, the other thing you can do is pay to play. The same client that lost their audience, they actually did promote a very specific article. It was a list-based article that people like to click on. They had done research. They had said this type of article, usually people will click into it, so they paid for reach. It actually went a little bit viral, and they had a ton of visitors, a ton of traffic from that. So if you decide on Facebook to purchase advertising, make sure that you purchase advertising for something that you've done the research and you know that it's going to be a successful article. You know that people are going to click into it. So list-based articles are ones that people love, that kind of thing. The other thing you can do is you can get your customers, your employees, to also try to promote your stuff to get it out to more people. And this is the other thing, start building community elsewhere. And that's what I recommend. Okay, Twitter. Yeah.
You just mentioned the open graph tags
Oh, yeah.
as well.
Open
Can
graph.
you get into that?
I didn't actually have that in this presentation, but I can talk about it if you want. And it's,
Is it important compared to meta tags?
yeah, you would want to have Open Graph Protocol on your pages. You also want to have the Twitter cards on your pages, and then Google Schema. And what that allows each of those platforms to do is to pull in the content on your page in kind of a rich media format. And it allows you to decide how you want that content presented. It gives you an awful lot of control.
And those, you're finding those are useful?
Oh, very much so, yeah.
Okay.
One of the things we're doing for this client that lost all their traffic is we're having them go through and put the Twitter cards, the Open Graph Protocol, and the schema on all of their pages.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, great question. Okay, so Twitter's about communication and connection. If you're going to be on Twitter, you do need to spend the time talking with people. I mean, going back and forth. So when I came here yesterday, I saw Tammy Heim. I gave her a big hug. I'd never met her before in my life, but we're Twitter friends. We go back and forth on Twitter sometimes. So just keep in mind that that's what that platform is for. Pinterest is how you get to your female audience. They tend to be affluent and well-educated. LinkedIn is, use your resume, it's the business person's site. They don't have a lot of users, but this is another one that the people that are on there, really high number of them have a college degree and a high income. LinkedIn is also doing a fantastic job with content. I mean, especially surrounding the work world, go explore the content that's on LinkedIn a little bit. I mean, this is high quality stuff, and you get it, you join groups, so you can join groups for anything that you're interested in, and the people that are in those groups, if they're passionate about that, you will be amazed at what you can learn. I actually think that this platform has a really bright future ahead of it. I really like the way that I'm seeing this platform managed.
Do you publish content directly on LinkedIn?
You can.
And do you echo what's on your website? Or
Mhm.
do
You can do that.
on LinkedIn and link to your website, or how do you?
All of the above. In fact, we're going to talk about that when we get to Google+.
Awesome, go for it.
Okay. All right, Google+, 540 million active monthly users, the neighborhood where everyone has a house but nobody lives. Okay? But you have to be there because it's connected with Google. And what happens is that anything that you publish on Google+ gets indexed, I'm reading 2 or 3 days ahead of what it would be by the Google bot. So you also, that's how you connect your author rank. And there's also then the personalized search. So when anybody is logged into Google, if they're in your circles, your search result will appear higher than it would otherwise for them. So when I'm logged in to Google and I search for something, I will often see someone that I know who's in my circle in that top 10 result.
Do brands count?
If you've connected with them somehow on Google, yes. Yeah. So that's really, really a huge tool that very, very few organizations have leveraged the way that they should. So, I mean, if I had the time and, if I could talk a client to letting me do this for them, I would do a whole Google Plus thing, basically, and say, okay, who do we want to be in our circles? And who do we want to make sure we're in their circles? And let's do a campaign to get these people in our circles so that when they do searches, we have the chance of appearing in those top results for them. So it's an important tool. And okay, so now what you do then, going back to your question, is make sure whenever you're publishing content anywhere, you also publish it to your Google Plus at the same time. And you can use any social tools, Sprout Social, and that will allow you to publish your content to all of your platforms at once. You do need to be careful of the intent of the platform. So, Twitter's 140 characters or whatever. Facebook, it tends to be more, a little bit smaller posts, more story kind of stuff. You can do much longer things for a platform like LinkedIn, and then Pinterest, of course, is images. So, and then we have to talk about YouTube. More than 1 billion unique visitors each month. 6 billion hours of video are watched each month. 100 hours are uploaded every minute. So if you don't have a YouTube channel, a branded YouTube channel, that you link in with all of your other content that you do, please go home today and do that. Videos on landing pages increase conversions by 86%. The example I was telling you earlier of the client that sent a donation through a page, that was a video page. Okay, I want to take a look here. We got 10 minutes left, so I'm going to go through the examples here pretty quickly. I wanted to take a look at some best-in-class social, and really the Charity Water. I'm sure all of you are familiar with their site. They have just done amazing things. And I remember I started following them when they first started, and nobody was really looking at them, and they have had amazing success. And where they really kick it is in storytelling and in video and in what is called social proof. And I want to talk for a minute about social proof because I think this is a technique that you can use. Basically, social proof is when you're showing other people who look at this what these folks are doing here. So then they say, oh, they're doing it. It must be a good thing to do. I will do it too. And so one of the ways that they do that is they say, here are the people that have already pledged, and here are all of these pictures of people who have given up their birthday for charity water. And you just hover over it, and that's where it is. That's social proof. It's a really powerful technique. I recommend that you use it. And here is where you can pledge. And whenever you put in your birthday, I put in my birthday, it tells you how many people born on your birthday have already pledged. Again, it's an incentive. And then what their CEO says is this: at our core, we are an amazing content marketing shop. We create amazing content that we distribute through the web, through social media, and then we give that to people we hope are passionate advocates who will take the content and share it with their friends. And that, in a nutshell, is what you want to do. Because when that happens, that benefits your search rankings as well. I'm going to give you another case study. This is one of our clients. This was one of the most interesting things I ever ran across since I've been doing this. They have two sites where he publishes his content. One is the Highlands Ministry site, one is the R.C. Sproul Jr. site. If you look at the traffic, and this is for this year, Highlands Ministries is the one that's on the right. 59% of their traffic comes from social. Okay? The direct is most of their email, and then their organic search is tiny. Now, the reason that I found this is because when I was reviewing the site, I was doing an analysis of it, I was really stunned at how little traffic came from search for a site that had so many articles on it. I've never seen it that low before, ever, as long as I've been doing this. So why is that? So in a conversation with one of their people, she happened to mention, oh yeah, we published RC's content to two sites at exactly the same time. Okay, well, honey, that's duplicate content. You don't want to do that. Now what's happening is that, Google doesn't really know who the original author is, and you're probably splitting up your page rank among it. So I said, okay, so let me go in and take a look. Well, okay, so this is the R.C. Sproul Jr. site, 35%. The highest does come from organic search. So it looks as if Google has already decided that that is what we call the canonical location for his content. So what I had told her we need to do is we need to go in, we need to add a canonical tag, we need to tell Google that the Highlands Ministry site is the canonical site for his thing. Once I found that, we said, no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to, instead, we're going to make the R.C. Sproul site the canonical one, because Google has already decided that. It would take so much effort to get Google to figure out that, no, it's this site instead. So what we're going to do is we're going to drive search from this site, and we're going to drive social from that site. And she's already she's doing a fantastic job of it. So what she does is she posts the site to their organization, Twitter and Facebook, but she also posts it to his individual ones. And so that's driving all of the traffic from the Highlands site. So we just decided we weren't going to mess with a good thing. But I'm showing it to you so that you can see how you can combine your search and your social in kind of a unique way to get eyes on your content. It's the same content, and their goal is they just want lots of eyes on the content. So that's how they're doing it. All right, how does search and social work? Social engagement boosts search performance. If you get the social credibility, it will increase your search rankings according to what we have seen today. Better search performance increases social signals. That's because people can find the content, and if they like it, they will share it. So it's kind of this chicken and egg sort of thing. They both fill on each other. The key is really good content that people will want to share and distribute. So search actually looks for social signals of viral content so the engine can index it quickly. So if search sees that something is actually starting to go viral, there's ways in the algorithm they can spot that, and then they can get the Googlebot over there to index it more quickly. Once it's indexed, the search engine watches it to see how valuable it is. Is it a flash in the pan, or does it continue over a period of days or even weeks to draw visitors? If it does that, then at that point, often that article will then continue to rank sometimes for years afterwards, because the search engine has learned that it's authoritative. So your content has to be share-worthy in social, and then it also has to be link-worthy. So search can drive traffic to social media, and social media can boost search results. The other thing here that is really important with this that I want you to keep in mind is that your social conversations can inform your keyword strategy. So I'm taking you almost all the way back to the beginning of this presentation when we were talking about keyword research. Pay attention to the conversations that are happening in your social platforms. Look at the language people are using. If you start to see the same type of language used over and over again, create a page for it and optimize it. And that's what I said right there. Okay, we have got 4 minutes, and my last slide here is I was like, oh, I was going to try to optimize a site with you and to go through and to analyze it. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the last few minutes for just answering your questions. And if you've got questions about, any particular thing related to a site, then I'll be happy to answer them for you. I'm actually going to do that as soon as we're done. I'm going to make a PDF of it, and then I can actually probably pull up my email and send it to all of you right now if you just want to give me your email addresses.
Send you an email.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Yeah, that'd be the easiest thing. Just if you want a copy of my slide deck, just send me a quick email that says slide deck, and I will respond with it.
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.